Imagine stepping outside into minus 40 degrees. No coat, no boots, just you and the wind. Your skin would freeze in minutes. Your breath would crackle in your lungs. You wouldn't last the night. And yet, for roughly 100,000 years, your ancestors didn't just survive winters like this. They lived through them. They raised children. They told stories. They made art. And the part that should stop you cold? The shelters they built, using nothing but dirt, bones, and animal hides, could maintain interior temperatures up to 50 degrees warmer than the outside air. That's not a guess. That's measured performance. In some cases, matching what modern Arctic shelters achieve with industrial insulation and electric heating. They didn't outmuscle the Ice Age, they out-engineered it. And once you see how, you will never look at your own home the same way again. That exact idea, this one survival hack, kept humanity alive for roughly 100,000 years. So how did ancient humans survive winter after brutal winter? The answer is buried in the ground beneath ancient villages across Europe. At 6 to 8 feet below the surface, the ground doesn't freeze. Year-round, no matter what's happening above, it stays 20 to 30 degrees warmer than the air. At Kostenki, Russia, archaeologists found circular depressions dug roughly 8 feet deep and 12 feet across. These aren't random holes. They're the earliest winter shelters ever discovered. Deliberate thermal engineering executed with stone tools and bare hands. By placing their shelters below the frost line, they gained heat they didn't have to create. The planet itself became a battery. No fire, no fuel, just physics. The same principle a modern geothermal heat pump uses, just without the pump. Think of it like wearing a heavy winter jacket. The jacket doesn't generate heat, you do, but it traps your body heat in a layer of dead air, preventing the cold from reaching your skin. These shelters worked exactly the same way. The ground was the jacket, and below 6 feet, that jacket never comes off. But a pit alone isn't enough. Cold air sinks. The walls had to do work too. At Dolní Věstonice in the Czech Republic, 26,000 years ago, the walls of these winter shelters reveal something deliberate. 3 layers, each with a distinct thermal function. Innermost, animal hide, fur facing inward, trapping body heat against the occupants. Middle layer, dried grass and moss-packed dents. Dead air space, the exact same principle as modern fiberglass insulation. Outermost, woven reed and bark mats, windbreaks that shed snow and blocked the killing wind. 3 layers, 3 distinct thermal jobs. This isn't primitive guesswork, it's layered engineering. They understood, without a word for it, that each material serves a different physics function. And they built it all in late summer, months before winter hit, because the ground had to be soft enough to dig. That's not reactive survival, that's seasonal planning. You don't dig an 8-foot pit in frozen ground with stone tools. You build it when the sun is out and the earth is soft, because you know January is coming. Here's where most people get this wrong. They look for one single trick, one magic material, one special bone arrangement. And that's the mistake. The real hack, the one that actually kept humanity alive for 100,000 years, was never a pit, or a bone, or a ventilation hole. The real hack was seeing all of those things as a single connected machine. While the rest of the natural world was surviving moment to moment, your ancestors were thinking in systems. Pit goes below frost line. Walls slow heat loss. Bone burns long. Holes move stale air. That is climate control. That's the equation. And once you put it together, it produces an interior up to 50 degrees warmer than the outside air. Everything I've described so far, the pit, the layered walls, the bone houses, the fuel, the ventilation, they aren't 4 separate discoveries. They're 4 components of the same idea, born in the same system-thinking brain. The hack isn't the hole in the ground. The hack is the brain that saw the hole, the walls, the fire, and the airflow as one thing. This is a fundamental shift in how we understand ancient humans. Ice Age survival wasn't patience and fur. It was physics. And that leads to the most extraordinary piece of this system, the architecture. At Mazirek in Ukraine, researchers found something that stops archaeologists cold even today. Entire buildings constructed from mammoth bones. Not one, dozens. A village. Mammoth skulls, each weighing hundreds of pounds, used as foundation blocks. Curved tusks arranged into dome frameworks, distributing weight along the natural arch. Jawbones stacked in herringbone patterns, each bone interlocked with the next. The result? a structure that maintained interior temperatures 40 to 50 degrees above the outside air, using only modest fires inside. When researchers built a full-scale reconstruction, modern Arctic shelter engineers reviewed the thermal data and called it genuinely impressive. Think about that. A house made of bones, outperforming expedition tents designed by modern engineers, not because the materials were magic, because the system was. Inside these bone houses, fire was never just fire. They burned bones, not just wood, because dried bones burn longer, hotter, and steadier. In a landscape where trees were scarce, bone was the fuel that didn't run out. Every mammoth skeleton was a stored energy system, slowly released through controlled burning across an entire winter. And the ventilation? This is where the system becomes genuinely beautiful. Small openings near ground level pulled in fresh, cold air. It crossed the central hearth, warmed instantly, and rose. Openings near the top of the dome let warm, moisture-heavy air escape, preventing condensation that would otherwise freeze and collapse the structure from the inside out. Passive, convection-driven airflow. Close the ventilation holes and the smoke kills everyone inside. Open them too wide and the cold wins. Get it right. And you're running a climate-controlled building with no moving parts. Your bathroom exhaust fan works on the exact same principle. The only difference is yours needs electricity. Bones for steady heat. Holes for constant airflow. A system where every part depends on every other part. None of this was easy. These shelters took months to build. The materials: massive bones dragged across frozen ground, layered hides stitched by hand, packed earth moved basket by basket, required coordinated group effort across entire seasons. The fuel system demanded constant maintenance. The ventilation had to be adjusted daily, and yet they built them, generation after generation, for 100,000 years. The principles haven't changed. That thermostat on your wall, the double-paned windows, the insulation behind your drywall, every single one descends from Ice Age engineering. The same physics, just different materials. The physics didn't change in 100,000 years. We just swapped mammoth bones for steel beams and animal hides for fiberglass. The next time someone calls early humans primitive, remember this. They built climate control from dirt, bone, and observation. And the idea worked so well, it outlived the Ice Age itself. If this permanently changed how you see your ancestors, people who weren't shivering cavemen but deliberate, brilliant engineers who built climate control with dirt, bone, and nothing but observation, hit subscribe. There's an entire lost history of human ingenuity most people never hear about, and I'm covering all of it. Drop one word in the comments, engineers, if you made it to the end and now see your ancestors differently. And click the video on screen for the next piece of history that changes how you understand where you came from.